This podcast is brought to you by Blossoms PPC, your trusted partner for promotional apparel and uniforms. Since 1998, we've been manufacturing high-quality t-shirts, caps, and bags in bulk with competitive pricing and timely delivery. Visit www.blossomspc.com for more details.
Welcome to the Backbench Masterclass. Today we have a very special guest with us, Miss Raveena, who is the co-founder of White Puppies Realty. Thank you so much for accepting our invite to come on the podcast.
It's my pleasure, guys.
And the first question we're going to ask you is, were you a backbencher in school and college?
In school, definitely a backbencher. That's because I was very tall, so I was made to sit at the back. But I think as I got to college, I became a front bencher and with all the backbencher naughtiness in the front.
So where did you do your school and where did you go to college?
So Frank Anthony Public School, Cambridge Layout, that's where I did my entire education, and then moved to Mount Carmel Colleges in Bangalore and completed my graduation from there, and then moved to Symbiosis in Pune and completed my master's there.
So did you always know that you were going to end up in the real estate space? Or?
Never. Actually, it just came by chance, and I always believe real estate chooses you, you don't choose real estate. I actually went into to an interview where I was going in for sales for a very luxurious resort. So I thought, it's going to be a fabulous journey. I'm going to, travel to resorts. And the guy who was interviewing me was the general manager, and he puts this brochure in front of me and asks me, "What do you know about this project?" And I'm like, "I don't know anything about this." And he's like, "You're here for this interview, right?" So, I think from there on, things just moved forward. I happened to love what I was doing with them. And so stayed in this industry for 10 years now and plan to stay here forever.
So how did White Puppies, White Puppies really start?
I've always wanted to start something of my own. I knew that for sure. And so I, when I decided to quit, right, I had a couple of years of experience with me. I traveled in Kerala, traveled across Karnataka, traveled across Maharashtra, worked in Goa, Alibag, all these areas, and then thought, I think it's time now to start something of my own. And a very dear and close friend of mine said, if you're doing something of that sort, why not let's do it together, right? And that's how, it was just a conversation over, I think, coffee one evening, and then we decided to go ahead for this, and then we started White Puppies.
Yeah, your question, actually, I was very curious about this.
I think I'm waiting for that question.
But your company has quite a distinct name compared to most brokerages, right? So could you tell us the story behind your name as well as what it represents?
Absolutely. So when we were juggling for names, right? We were thinking of legacy homes. We're thinking about Stardust homes. So many different typical broker names, right? And then we thought, why do the same thing that everyone else is doing? Let's have something very unique to it. And the only thing common between me and my best friend, who is our co-founder, were that we both had 2 white puppies. Okay, and we loved them to death. And we still do, right? So we thought, let's do this. Let's name it after them. Initially, our logo was also 2 white puppies. So I had a lab and he has a Great Dane. So we had, like a design of the lab and Great Dane. Then we said, no, that's... and people have always thought of us as, Hush Puppies, which is the shoe brand. And people say, is this Hush Puppies Realty? Then people call us and say, do you also do, spa services for dogs? So we get all of that. And everyone always asks us the question. I think that's why our name is always remembered, right? And to be very honest, why we actually did, come down to this name is 3 things, right? One is friendship, which dogs represent, loyalty, and honesty, right? And we want to have these 3 things in the firm when we do services, and touch wood, we've been doing that so far and continue to do that.
It's one of the most distinct names. I remember coming across your Instagram, I think a year back.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably one of the only pages I don't forget, because it's like White Puppies Realty. It's a very you can't not use it or anything else.
Exactly, right? You can't forget it. You're just like, why White Puppies?
It has like a lasting impression.
Absolutely, exactly.
Yeah.
So when did White Puppies Realty begin?
So 2023 Jan. That's just when I quit my role at a previous firm, moved into this. We've been 2.5 years now in business, and growing.
I honestly thought you guys have been in this business for at least 10 years.
Oh,
Oh,
100%.
so I have been in the business for 10, 11
Okay.
years now. I've primarily worked only in farmhouses,
Okay.
right? I've never sold a residential apartment or a row villa or any of those sorts, but I've sold a 35 CR mansion in Goa, right? That's probably my biggest one sale that I've done.
Okay.
So I've always done farmhouses, holiday homes, and that's why we are in that field as well.
What is the difference between investing in like a farmhouse as compared to like a typical residential or a commercial project?
Okay. So there are two main distinctions when you say that, right? So when you say residential or commercial, I'll keep commercial out of the conversation because that's a separate ball game altogether. So residential versus farmlands, right? Now, if let's say an investor has a 1.5 CR budget, right? He would probably get maybe 1,500, 2,000 square feet apartment in the city, right? And it's just an apartment, right? Whereas the same budget, someone would get close to 10,000 square feet land parcel with a 2,000 square feet villa, fully furnished and ready to move in, right? So that's the difference that an investor is getting for the same budget. And the best part is he's getting to stay away from the crowd, away from the chaos. He owns a land parcel, which is an asset, right? Which you don't get when you're buying a residential unit. And if you go in for row villas, you never get those at those same costs, right? 1.5 crores, you won't get a row villa unless you go somewhere really very far from the city, right? And then there's daily travel. And the second distinction that comes in is, of course, the rental aspect, right? So these farmhouses are usually in holiday spaces or in the outskirts of Bangalore, where people go for weekends, right? So where you could earn about 30, 35,000 a month for your 2 BHK or 3 BHK flat, you're earning the same thing per night, right? So your value for money, the ROI that you generate from your rental income is tremendous. It's almost 10x.
What about capital appreciation
Yes.
compared to like a farmland capital appreciation versus that of a residential unit?
Farmlands are growing at 23.3% CAGR year on year. So even if we take half of that for your unit, we're looking at 12 to 15% every year. And residential units are growing at just 5% max, right? So that's the kind of appreciation we're looking at. So when an investor does invest in a farmhouse, typically every year he's making close to, I would say, 20% appreciation. When I say 20%, I'm saying rental income and capital appreciation together.
How did you find this niche?
Like I said, right, when I went in for that interview, I was thrown this brochure, and it was in the hills of Wayanad. I was like, who the hell is going to buy this? And this was pre-COVID, right? I'm like, what? Like, and we were priced at about 5 CR back then. I'm saying 2014, right? Yeah, 1 acre of a land parcel, 7,000 square feet, beautiful wood house, wood and stone house, and it used to be such a big challenge. But I loved that, right? And then I loved the fact that when I handed over the house to a client, there was this, I don't know, it was like a dream come true in his eyes, right? When he looked at the home, he was so happy, he was so overjoyed. I felt like I've created something, right? And I think that is what hooked me onto that, and I've always been here.
Actually, I do have a follow-up because you said that the client was really happy. So, do you have any other like client stories that has really shaped the way that you think about brokerage as a whole?
100%. So we have both good and bad. What would you like to know?
The good and like the funny, I'd say. Are there like any funny side stories,
Funny, I mean, I wouldn't really say like hilarious funny, but like we have peculiar clients who always like have a lasting impression with you, right? Like it's just them, it's their character, and I think I've always stayed with them. So 10 years now, I've carried them with me to every property, and I know them very well. But I would say some really good instances was, this one time when I was handing over a home in Wayanad, and this lady started crying, and it really touched my heart because she said, and she was, I think, in her late 50s, maybe 58, 59. And she said, all my life I wanted to have something like this. And I didn't know when and how, because in India back then, farmhouses were not a big thing, the elite would own it. And when she saw that home, right, she said, I'm moving in here. And she had tears in her eyes. She gave me a tight hug. and I was barely 21, 22 back then, right? So that really boosted my confidence, and she was so happy. No issues with the house. Minor issues are always there when you hand over a home, right? But she was, very, very easy, very, understanding. I think that's what really, sometimes it's so paying off that, you go through all the struggle. There are legal challenges that come in, then clients have issues with the developers. There's so much that happens, but then finally when you reach that end stage, right, when you're giving the keys to someone, that's the best part. It's totally worth it.
Sure.
Like, what is like the process for someone who doesn't know how to? I mean, for someone who's like just discovering like this farmland space, what is like the process of someone actually investing in like farmlands, and what are like the types, like standalone or like a managed farm space? Could you talk more about that?
So there isn't a process. It's a very wide market, and I would say it's a very unorganized market. That's where we found our gap, right? Because we understood that there's so many projects. The moment you type farmlands on Google, you've got like 20, 30 projects, and all of them are very different from each other. And you don't have any regulatory body like a RERA or something that's governing them, right? So there's a project in the same vicinity that's priced at maybe 1,000 rupees, and there's a project again maybe like 2 to 3 kilometers away priced at 800 or 900 or maybe even like 1,500. So there's no one to kind of guide you, right? Like which project is where. I think the only thing I tell all my clients is just look for value for money, right? Because at the end of the day, you can never say if this is the right price or not the right price. It's just how luxurious the community is, what the amenities they're offering you, and that's where you kind of start to understand. And of course, the kind of properties that are there in the market, right? The farmland properties, you do have standalones, but those are very, very difficult to deal with because you have to take care of everything yourself. You have communities, and there are two types of communities, right? There's one community that just offers you land and says, you know what, we'll maintain it for you, this is your land and you're free to do whatever you want, right? And then there are some communities who have a vision, right? They know exactly what they're offering you, they know exactly the future of the community, what is the price point they expect in future, the deliverables, amenities, right? And of course the ROI from rentals, which is the main attraction today in farmhouses, right? So these are majorly the two types of communities. And then you also have a third community which kind of tells you that, by this 10,000 square feet, you've got teak wood, you've got sandalwood, XYZ, I'm going to cut these trees 15 years, 20 years later. And that really, really doesn't work out. But I mean, of course, it depends from client to client what they're looking for. But generally, these are the three categories you have.
Actually, I do have a follow-up on what you spoke about earlier. You said that there is no formal regulatory authority, right? So how is a buyer safeguarded when investing in such projects?
So it's a very good question, and I'll tell you what most of my clients ask. Right, this is a typical question. So what we always tell someone is, first and foremost, do your background check about the developer. Right, who is he? And if you notice, you will not find the A-level developers in this industry. It's always a small guy or an unknown guy who's owned this land parcel for a very long time. So it's not a big name in the industry at all, right? So you've got to be able to do some sort of a background check. And typically that's where we come in, right? Because we as an agency, what we typically do is before we onboard any project, we have a 12-point checklist where we check each and everything about the firm, including their balance sheets, including their legal documents, including who's on their board, how they're funding the whole project, what are their estimated timelines, a lot of things, right? And that's when we onboard projects. So any buyer who buys through us, they can be very well assured that this project is going to be completed and within a stipulated time.
What are some of the top destinations? And like, what are some of the top destinations actually for purchasing these farmlands?
So there are multiple, honestly speaking, right? Coorg is my personal favorite, and Coorg is doing very well. You also have Sakleshpur, you have Chikmagalur, you have Kodaikanal, you have the Nilgiris, right? So you have all these places which are the best, I would say, in terms of holiday destinations.
How do you operate? Again, this is from like this question from the operational side. You're selling properties. I mean, you're selling farmlands in areas that are very scattered.
Yeah.
So how do you go about like managing this?
So the way we look at it is every client who buys with us is an individual client, And that's how actually farmlands also work, right? So when someone, and this also adds to your previous question, how is someone safeguarded, right? So when someone's buying a land with us, right, the first thing we make them do is go through the legal paperwork, right? Once they're clear with it or their lawyers clear with it, is when they register the land directly to their names. So the asset is secured, right? They have full ownership of the asset, a sale deed with them, right? And then they employ our contractors to build their house. So it's almost like you buy a land off, a road or wherever, right? And then you employ a contractor to construct your home. So every time a certain level of construction is completed, the contractor requests for further funds. So it's never that we have a chunk of funds coming in and we're scattering it across projects. No, each person's house is funded by himself, right? And this is how it works in every community. So each property within the community has its own timeline, right? Like if someone buys today, within the next 1 year, that house is expected to complete. And if somebody buys after a month, it's 12 months plus 1 month. And that's how it works, right? So we try and finish sales within a given period of time so that we're able to complete the entire community also simultaneously.
So you mentioned Nilgiri, Sakleshpur as top destinations. What are some areas like in and around Bangalore that people could look at if they're considering to purchase farmlands?
Yes, absolutely. That's also a wonderful question. It all comes down to what a person's looking at, because Bangalore is expanding from all sides today, right? And I think you must be hearing about the buzz in North Bangalore. There's so much happening out there, right? So everyone's very bullish on North Bangalore, and so are we. But we always try and understand what a client wants, and if somebody is looking for a huge capital appreciation, mainly North Bangalore is the place for you, and anywhere in North, right? Whether it's Dodballapur, Chikballapur, IVC Road, Nandi Hills Road. I mean, all these places are booming at this moment. But if someone's looking for a more quieter setting and at the same time, a decent capital appreciation and a great rental income, we always recommend them South Bangalore, like your Kanakpura Road or Banalkata Road or your Mysore Road, right? Those are areas where we typically recommend people.
What are some of the differences between like a farmland and like a traditional like residential plot?
A residential plot.
I mean like a residential property.
Okay.
What are like some differences that like an investor could essentially like feel?
See, your first major difference is price point, right? Like the moment it's residential, you won't find it less than about 2,500 rupees a square feet anywhere, right? And if it's a farmland, it's coming to you at 1/3 the cost, right? It's the same land. It's literally everything is the same, right? You're still going to have your 30 feet wide roads. You're still going to have your common areas. Everything is going to be the same, but it's just the status of the land, right? That's the only major point I would say that's giving you the price difference. The second major benefit is like I mentioned to you, which is your rental income, right? It's, I would say, 10 times better than a home, right? Where you're renting a home out at 25 to 40,000 a night, a 2 BHK. You're renting the same 2 BHK at 25 to 40,000 per night, right? So that's your difference, and it depends on your occupancy at the end of the day. So people in farmhouses end up making close to 12 to 15% returns from rentals, and within a residential community you're making hardly about 2 to 3% net, right? So that's the kind of difference that we're looking at. And I think the third major point I would say is definitely getting to customize your home, right? In a flat or a community which has row villas, you really can't customize, right? It's internally that you can do things. But in farmhouses, we give you our architect and we say design, right? And you have the freedom to do a modular home. You can do like a Chettinad style home. You can do a home with wooden stones. I mean, you have the freedom out there, right? However you want to design your home at the same cost.
Why do you think? I mean, again, just listening to this, it just seems like a no-brainer that like, why would you even pick like a residential? Like the farm, like a farmland investment is like is the obvious logical choice. Why do you think this information is not like mainstream?
See, of course, there are a few reasons, right? Because the one major reason is it's a very new asset class today, right? In Karnataka, especially, it's been opened up only in the last 4 years after 79 ANB was abolished. Prior to that, you as a normal Indian citizen couldn't buy agriculture or farmlands. It had to be bought only by farmers, right? So it's a very new asset class, and people are still exploring it. That anything that's new, there's always a give and take, right? Either you have people who are very bullish on it, or you have people who go completely against it, right? So that is still happening. I think we're very early on in the farmland game in India, and I think it has a huge growth potential. I would say in the next 10 to 15 years, it's here to stay for sure, right? And a couple of other benefits that people get, right? One is it does not attract capital gains. So when you usually sell residential properties, you have to reinvest them in residential properties. You can sell your farmhouse and go on a world tour. Miss Sita Raman won't question you at this moment, at least. So that's the benefit of a farmhouse.
Actually, I do have a follow-up. So you said you see this market really booming. So if you had to place one big bet on the next big trend, would you say it is managed farmlands and plotted development?
100%, 100%. I would say 200%. Actually, right? I mean, I've delivered communities 6-7 years ago, and I've seen them hit 300% appreciation, which is crazy. And there is a property in the north of Bangalore, which is a 125-acre beautiful mango grove. Right, 3 years back we were selling at an X price. We're at 108% appreciation today, and we still have properties available.
In 3 years.
In 3 years. Where do you see that kind of growth? Even Dubai isn't giving you that growth. So I always tell my clients, come to farmlands, Habibi. Instead of going to Dubai, right? Like always, I mean, look at what you have in India, right? It's great.
If you could make a 1-minute sales pitch looking at the camera to convince people to, again, like laser eye focus on farmlands, what would that be?
So I would always tell someone that if you're looking for value for money, and if you're looking for something that can really help you grow your income 3x, 4x in a couple of years, definitely it has to be farmlands. And for any more further information, you should give us a call so that we can really understand your requirement and help you with the right investment. And believe me, all the clients who've bought with us, I haven't found one disappointed client yet.
That's a great sales. I think you were a born salesperson.
Really?
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, so I do have a question to follow up. So, buyers of any sort of property are more informed now than they have ever been before. So, how does this awareness actually reshape the role of a broker?
So I would honestly say it's the best thing ever, because when you have a client who's uninformed, for him to take a decision is far more difficult. And for us as a broker, it really puts in a lot of, I mean, it's so much of effort to be able to convince him when he's not informed, right? And we see that difference between a buyer who's just exploring, buyer who doesn't have knowledge, versus someone who knows exactly what he wants and what he's getting into. So I would definitely say that the information in the market really helps us, and we close deals faster because the buyer's more informed. As a broker, of course, we always have some amount of competition, but the best thing for us is, we're not in that industry where you've got 50,000 brokers, right? We probably are one of those few agencies, and we're the only agency in India, the first agency that ever started in the vertical of only farmhouses, right? And we continue to be in that vertical, holiday home and farmhouses, right? So for us, it's not that much of a competition. So people do understand where they're coming and what's the benefit they're getting of coming to us. That's where we're able to help people.
When we look at like the real estate market as a whole, it's hyper competitive, right? And Bangalore more so.
Yeah.
So how do you like build credibility and trust among buyers?
See, word of mouth is a very big thing. I mean, even if a buyer is not buying from you, how you treat a buyer and the experience that he's had with your firm really makes a very big impact, right? I mean, he would tell 2 of his other friends or colleagues that, even if I've not bought through them, I've had a great experience. And that is what builds your credibility, right? When 2 people who talk about you, and we're not talking about just anybody and everybody, we're talking about really ultra HNIs, right? Founders, CEOs, directors, these are our kind of clientele, film stars, right? We've sold to so many wonderful celebrities and big names out there, right? So when they put the word out to people, that's credibility, I would say, more than anything else. Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about your social media? Because honestly, I think you guys were one of the first to start with your style essentially of like social media marketing. How did that go about?
So I was sitting with my team one day, and we were trying to find a hook line. And I said, I don't care about the hook line. All I do care about is in that 30 seconds, because I have a very short attention span, and my team will tell you about it. If they talk to me for more than 30 seconds, I'm lost. I'm like, just send me an email then. So that's how it is, because there's so much going on in one person's mind, right? So I just said, if you can put this whole information down in 30 seconds, I think we'll be done. And my marketer said, why not do exactly that? right? I'll say that this is what you can get in so and so destination for 30 seconds. And within 30 seconds, we give all the criteria and all the major information. And we say, if you want to know more, just comment, right? So that really caught people's attention because that's a pain point. You don't want to go through like a 1 minute video and like, not get to the point, right? So get to the point straight in your face and just say, call me if you want to know more, right?
The reason I asked you that is because again, I think yours is one of the few realty channels that's not having like a person in front of the camera, and like a lot of other people, you have them just like doing like stuff to just get people's attention. But your hook is just like the property, which is really cool.
Yeah, exactly. Right, and the property is cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you I mean, before we could set up, right, I was showing my co-founder some videos, right, and they have, so this property that I went to recently, it has a football turf, very, very high up. I really don't know what is the height difference, but when you play football there, it really feels amazing. And down you can see all the plantations, right? Where do you get to play football like that? Yeah. Like, I mean, nowhere, right? And my team went out for a game. It was raining. They were drenched, wet, and they enjoyed themselves, right? So the team also really enjoys working because you're going to holiday spaces to do work. Like, we're in Coorg working, and in that weather and in that setting, so they really enjoy it as well.
Do you think we're moving again, like if you look at like every major city in India or globally, to be honest, there's like a lot of traffic, high prices, and like our generation, to be honest with you, like I don't think I could see myself living in the city in the next 20 years because the situation is gonna get much worse. Do you see like a trend of like, again, people just going towards like the suburbs and just living in places like these?
So when you do decide, just give me a call.
100%.
No, but yes, absolutely. I would say more than this city being a challenge, I would actually say it is a mindset shift, really, right? Because COVID really taught us all the mistakes that we've been doing, right? And a couple of days ago, actually, I was reading this article which spoke about NDD, which is nature deficiency disorder. And thankfully for us, we didn't have traffic back then, so we would play gilli danda, we would play cricket on the roads, we would pluck mangoes from a nearby neighbor's bagicha, we would do all of these things, right? But for kids these days, they're locked up in like rooms like this with air conditioning on, they're going in cars with air conditioning, so they don't have that give and take with nature, and they're losing that touch. So when you lose that touch, you develop a deficiency basically, which inhibits your memories. You don't have the capacity to learn as much because there is something that's not going right with the human body. You would hear people say at least 15 minutes a day, walk on grass, because that really heals you, right? So these are things that are happening. So parents are realizing this, right? You're always on a system, you're always on an iPad or a phone, right? Even when you're eating, you're watching a screen, right? So when you move to a farmhouse, what happens is the kid gets space to play, right? And they're planting a sapling, or they're plucking the fruits, or they're plucking the veggies, they're eating more healthy. It's more conscious, right? And that is what parents are also looking for, that even if I'm not staying there 24/7, I'm at least going there for the weekend or once or twice a month, so that my kid also gets that experience, and so do I, because even I'm so bored of the city traffic and chaos, right? So this is what's happening, right? So it is definitely a shift.
Do you think there will be a time where these second homes would become like a primary residence? And like the city homes could be like an escape, or I'm just gonna come to the city to like finish some work. But like this is gonna be like my primary place to stay.
It's actually already happening as we speak. Yes, because hybrid work, right? I mean, people go to office 2 days or 3 days a week at the max, right? And I mean, my youngest client is 28 years old, and he's bought a property with me in Dodbalapur, and he says, I want to stay here because I need to go to office 2 days a week. Very big guy, VP of a large firm, and he's doing that already, right? And his wife works from home too. So there are a lot of people in our communities, be it Coorg or be it Chikmagalur or be it in the outskirts of Bangalore. In fact, people from North India have traveled all the way to our southern holiday destinations to kind of stay there maximum, catch a flight, go back whenever there are important meetings, and come back. So we've had those kind of clientele.
So you've essentially built a brand in Bangalore, right? That has a mix of like IT professionals, NRIs, and first-time home buyers. So which customer segment was the most interesting to serve per se?
I would definitely say first time home buyers
Okay.
because they're so young and they're not going the typical route their
Right.
parents went, which is buy your first apartment or buy your first home, right? And they're like, I can rent a home anywhere, and as and when my job shifts, I can move the city because I don't have to go through traffic. But I can always come to this farmhouse, take my friends there, have a birthday party celebration or anniversary. So definitely the first home buyers. It's so exciting, yeah, to see them.
100%.
Yeah.
So when we look at like real estate, right, trust is like a major issue because of lack of transparency. So how do you think the industry as a whole can move towards like greater transparency?
See, very honestly, I'll tell you the kind of tarnishing that we've had in the past. I wouldn't say it is deliberate, right? To certain extents, it is, but majorly, no, it's not deliberate. It's just over leveraging, right? Fortunately, in this industry, I would say people need to start becoming a little more open in their minds as well,
Right.
and see the fact for what it is, right? The reality of things. So here it is actually very transparent, right? The land documents are given to you. You see how things are working. You buy the land for yourself, right? You do your own home construction. There is no way or no point in time the developer is taking in loads of money and shifting it to a different project and not delivering on time, right? That doesn't happen in this industry. And all the developers, they focus one project at a time, right? I think the other way for general residential, I think, despite having RERA in place, there have been projects that have defaulted. Now you really can't help that much because it is construction. There are people involved, laborers involved. It is a huge game. It's not easy, right? You're building like 150, 200 apartments, right? So somewhere or the other, you're going to face certain challenges, right? Some are reversible and some are not. And I mean, this is the case all over the world. Yeah, it's not just India, right?
Right. So, RERA, like you spoke about, was a major turning point in Indian real estate. So, do you think that it has genuinely leveled the playing field, or is there still compliance issues?
So, see, RERA is very tricky, right?
Okay.
RERA is definitely doing its job in kind of ensuring that the buyer is safeguarded. But to what extent?
Okay.
That's the question, right? We know of a very famous developer and many other developers who always do delay, right? When handing over projects, we know that, right? And they're okay paying the penalty. I mean, what else can RERA do? RERA can't come and construct your house and say, yeah, come take it. Like, there is only this much that RERA can also do, right? So at the end of the day, I've seen so many clients come to me and say, this project was supposed to be handed over 3 years before. I'm still stuck with it, despite having RERA, right? We still see these news that comes out, right?
Okay.
So I wouldn't really say that RERA is not doing its job. RERA is doing what it's meant to do, but there are still a lot of issues that do creep in, and that is just how the market is. That is how the industry is, and RERA really can't do anything beyond that. Yeah, I mean that's the maximum.
But that's again, you have issues like these with like most industries.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's everywhere, right? Whether it's the food industry or whether it's the manufacturing industry, it's always there, right? I mean, there's only so much a body can do, and beyond that, it's always out of control. And if it has to go down south, it has to go down south.
You're coming to a lighter note. Yeah. What is your vision with White Puppies?
My vision.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what I really want to make White Puppies into, right? So we are also actually doing a small development ourselves, entirely ourselves, right? Which will be put onto the page very soon. And what I see us doing is definitely picking up homes from across the country. We're also moving to an island close to Bangalore, which I can't name very clearly. Close to India, sorry, not Bangalore. And we're doing a development there as well. So I really want to go to all those destinations people haven't explored. Not your typical Bali and Thailand, not those typical places, but offbeat spaces which are actually good, right? Bring in tourism there, have beautiful homes there. So that's one thing that I definitely want to do with White Puppies. Yeah.
I think that's the most exciting.
That sounds really
That's the most
interesting.
exciting thing ever. have you guys like planned on starting like with this one? I mean, because you have like a killer Instagram page with like the property thing. If you're going about like like finding out these unexplored destinations, I'm just waiting for like the content that's gonna come out of that.
So we are doing that actually. So we're also doing behind the scenes content. We're trying to also capture just to build some confidence, right? Like how we go about finalizing property, so people understand this. So we are going to have a travel journey. We are having all of that coming in. So that's there.
So what are the services like White Puppy offers? Because see, right now, I mean, you're in like traditional brokerage, and then you also mentioned you're planning on developing a project. So in addition to that, you guys do more things.
Of course, we do. So one major part of business is consultation, right? So when someone who has a land parcel doesn't know what he wants to do with it, reaches out to us, right? And we do an entire market study around the place. We tell him what is the best thing for him to do. We connect them to the right architects, the right people for a project to actually take shape, and we position it in the market and we launch it. So actually, most of our projects are on consultation. So all the properties that you see at White Puppies, we've probably been in touch with them for like 8 months, 6 months.
Wow.
It's a long time in making, right? Until it reaches a point where okay, now we're good to go. We've got a structure to things. We've got partners on board, and we then launch it.
Right.
There are only a handful of them who already do this on their own, and we take them on as channel partners, right? But that's our two major sources of business. And the third source is, of course, architectural support. So if anyone has a farmland, wants to build a farmhouse individually, we also support them with that. And now we're getting into doing development ourselves.
So you guys, it's just been 2 years since you guys have started, but 2.5, but again, like what you guys have done is pretty phenomenal. Like, did you ever feel nervous or maybe things were going too fast?
Never.
Were you ever scared?
No, never. Actually, we're completely bootstrapped everything today. Yeah, we don't have an investor. No, never actually. We're just very happy that we don't have time to think about anything else. And I love what I do. Right? For me, it's being on vacation when I'm at work, and if I'm not at work, my family doesn't want me home because it's like I'm very weird back home. Like there's no work happening, So for me, this is what I love doing. That's why I started the business. For me, this was passion, honestly, more than anything else. So more than happy where we are, and we want to be more bigger and better.
So coming to a question that both of us were very curious about is that how is the experience differentiated when someone comes to White Puppies than that of any other brokerage?
Wonderful, actually. So this is very interesting. I'll tell you what we do differently, right? So we don't work like a brokerage house, actually, though we are, but we don't do that. So when any client inquires with us, we have experienced people sitting behind the call. It's not like a telecaller or like a newcomer who's just there. Hi, sir, what are you looking for? Okay, I'll send you a brochure. No, it doesn't work like that, right? So these guys who are sitting behind calls, they've been trained by me to get a client to understand what a client is looking for. So we ask them a set of questions before we even pitch a property to them, right? Just to understand what the client has in mind, and we don't end up wasting their time or our time, right? We have more than 45 properties on board across India. How do I define this is the right property for my client and not waste his time? Because if he goes in the market, I think he'll take a year by the time he finalizes a home, right? So, that's where I am, right? Why else would you want to reach out to me? I have the market concised to you in one person and one package. So, without asking questions and understanding a client, including their budget or their requirement or what their future goals are, their financial goals, everything we try and understand on the call. And then we shortlist a couple of properties and we give this to them, right? We then assist them with site visits, and post site visits, they all personally get on a call with me, right? So every single client who's interested, who's moving forward, who's very serious, comes on a video call or a personal meeting with me. And that's where I'm able to kind of, give him more information about what he's getting himself into, if this is the right time to do that, if this is the right property for him, etc., right? To help him make that decision. And many a times we also say no to them. We say, I think this is not the right time for you. I don't think this is a fair property, and I don't think I have anything better for you. So I'm so sorry. So we also say that to people, and we completely believe in honesty and transparency. And the second most important thing is that we do not charge clients commission, right? Like any other typical broker, because the builder takes the load of it. right? And that's not added into the cost. So this is something that I'm very, very sure about, that whatever the builder is selling the price to a client, he's selling the same property to me at the same price. So there's no hike, there's no margin. We don't work on margins. Like you give me 2,000, you keep 2,200. No, we don't do all of that, right? So it's basically an extended sales team, and that's how we work.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. And so I have like a follow-up question. So in addition to like, again, you mentioned like it's a nascent industry. It started in like the last 4-5 years. What are some opportunities for like young people watching to actually consider in this space? Like aside from just investing, like what are some like from like ancillary services or construction or something like those?
So one thing I definitely think youngsters can do is staging, right? Which we really fail in India to do that. If you hear in abroad, in every country, you usually have a mock villa which is staged, right? And that staging makes such an impact, which is your interiors basically, right? But here in India, we don't follow that. I'm actually trying to put that into force with all our projects. So, when a client comes and sees it, feels it, understands the space, it's easier for him to imagine how his house could be, right? So staging could be a great option because, you have certain products that could fit these farmhouses. The second thing is, of course, architecture services, because there's so much one can do. The terrain of the land is so beautiful. One can really put their thoughts out there, right? Like you can have a home on stilts, you can have a cantilevered home. There's so much you can do out there. So if you are an architect, I would definitely suggest entering the farmhouse segment because, your creative juices will really flow. Trust me on that, right? And when clients come with bizarre requests, you can actually put that in place. You can't do that in the city, right? So that's one service. And definitely the rental service, right? That's booming, right? Like your properties like Stay Vista and Saffron Stays, and there are so many of these Airbnbs, right? So I think if someone really wants to do a great job out there, being able to rent these communities and houses out at good prices, having a vision to doing that is again a fantastic place to be.
I think that's something to look forward to.
Yeah. If you guys are starting, please let me know.
We'll have a conversation after.
Absolutely.
All right.
So I think,
No, I think we're.
it's been lovely shooting with you.
Same here.
Thank you so much
Thanks.
for giving us this
My
time.
pleasure.
And I think this has been one of the most fun,
Yeah.
one of the most fun podcasts, but also one of the most like value-packed.
I'm glad that I could be of use to you and your audience. So that's great, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.